Hi, Misha here, and this is going to be a bit of a different video. Recently, last year, I had a batch of Fox rifles manufactured by WBP in Poland come in, and had these opened up to take standard magazines and sold them with the thumbhole furniture on still. And one of them I sold, this here, went to a repeat customer of mine, and he called me up saying it wasn't working. And we talked, and he kind of just grabbed, in fact, here, just take a look. Fox test 1. Yep, that's what it's doing. Yep, okay. You can see how it's holding back very much on its own here, hopefully. And then it also gets real sluggish in the middle. Punch it the right way. And I have to really pull it back hard to get it to go forward. And this is after a good greasing and wear in. So something, it's not the trigger that would let it go forward. Something is definitely wrong. The customer was decidedly right. This gun is not behaving as any self-respecting AK should. So that's what it was doing to him, firing once and then failing to really complete the cycle. I asked him to send it back to me so we could take a look. And normally in these situations you just do a replacement, but Fox rifles have been out of the country for a while. So the thing is, with most AKs, the problem is pretty apparent. There's just not a ton of parts in these, and can normally be rectified. So before really bugging the importer, I decided we would take a look and kind of troubleshoot this Fox rifle and see if we could get my customer's gun running properly. Now, normally we've had great luck with the Fox. Foxes? Foxi? Forks? I don't know. Here's mine, which I've had for just about a year now. And here are the very first shots we ever put through this one last summer. Fox rifle, take 1. So that's a little more like it. That's how they should run. We've had no failures out of this one. We've also had no failures out of J's. And as far as I know, none of the other ones I've shipped out have given those buyers any issues. And I believe the return rate, or the issue rate, for Atlantic and Arms of America is very low too. So it doesn't seem to be a problem that's endemic, a design issue with the Fox. It seems to be something with this particular rifle here. And since we had to do this anyway, I thought we'd make a video out of it, show what it took to get this running, or if we could get it running, and also talk about the AK in general. The myth that the AK is 100% durable and 100% reliable. These are very strong, simple guns, but like anything else mechanical, they can and will fail. In fact, one of the most famous and popular and beloved AKs that has ever been imported to the US is the Chinese Polytech. And of the Polytechs, the most sought after and applauded is the so-called Legend, or as it's known, the AK47S. Well, about a year and a half ago, got a nice condition one in. Thought we would take it out. We had a weekend at the range. Thought we'd take it out and run a bunch of rounds through it. That didn't quite go to plan.
You are not chambered.
Went into battery that time.
Mm-hmm.
Are we brave?
It's your hands.
Yeah. It did it that time.
Yeah. I think this one's not going to work for you.
No.
Still recording it here.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't even catch on the extractor. Weird.
Polytech Legend, take 2. Chamber.
A little lower. Go ahead.
That's different.
That didn't sound right.
Okay.
Fly around. Dimpled primer, but very lightly dimpled.
Could be the bullet, could be the gun. Let's keep going. This does have a spring-loaded firing pin, so... And there we are again.
Same. Same one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't very stuck. Let me give it one more go. Okay.
Yep. Nope. Alright. Done on that one.
Yep.
That's a wrap for Legend.
Yep. Note to self, bring a screwdriver. So, yeah, that happened. That Polytech Legend ended up having kind of a convergence, or even tolerance stacking, if you will. The spring-loaded firing pin, while great for preventing slam fires with soft primered commercial ammo, does sometimes mean that military or even just commercial steel case stuff, which is often made with military primers, won't always ignite. This was combined with a weak recoil spring in the back, which China probably put in them to, again, kind of make sure reliability was there. When you adjust the tension on the spring, high power versus low power, there's trade-offs, as with anything mechanical. It also had a tight chamber and thick chroming. This meant that ammunition that was still within spec, but on the higher end of spec, which the Wolf batch we had at that time was not feeding and extracting properly. So to fix the spring, that's easy. A new recoil spring put in. Not really, I mean, the firing pin you don't want to change on a Chinese. That's just how they were. That's actually one of the features of the Polytech. And for the tight chamber, we basically worked it a bit, cleaned it real good, and then really just kind of quit using that one type of ammo. We had better luck with Tula that first day, believe it or not. And then we got a few different types of Wolf and Brown Bear during subsequent tests, and I think between breaking in, because the gun hadn't been shot much, and just changing ammo, we got her running. So with that in mind, what this gun was doing, even by hand cycling, and sorry because it's just me recording, I can't show you here, although it's, yeah, when you pulled it back, the bolt was kind of sticking in the rear and not wanting to go forward. Initially, the owner thought it was hanging up on the trigger group. Anyone who has AKs knows some of them will do that. And at that time it had a Tabco in it, I think, or maybe a Rack 1. But after getting it myself, I realized it was actually going further back, and it wasn't sticking over the trigger group, it was further back. That could have been a few things. First thing we did, we really took it apart and hosed it down. It still had a lot of old packing grease and cosm line in the receiver and the rails and the bolt. This was put on as a preservative to keep it from rusting up over the ocean, of course. The owner had taken a little off, but we really rinsed it out good. This obviously helped smooth things up a bit, and then of course we added a little bit of light lubricant. With AKs, you have to be careful about lubing them, because a lot of areas don't like it on these critters. So if you're going to do it, basically just the rails, and avoid anything near the chamber, and especially the gas tube or block. You don't want oil up there. So we cleaned her out. And then we also put in an extra power Wolf recoil spring, because again the bolt was acting sluggish. And figured, yeah, let's give it a go. And of course, as we're doing this, we're going to always be trying different magazines and different ammunition, because you'd be amazed how often, again, kind of like with that Polytech Legend, a lot of that was an ammo issue. Also, magazines, they're a critical part of a gun, but they tend to either dent or be made out of spec or have weak springs themselves. So if you're ever having trouble, always bring a few magazines with you to the range. You definitely want to do that. And if you can, bring at least 3 types of ammunition, so you can at least rule that out as a factor. So yeah, with that understanding, a good deep cleaning and a little bit of light lubing inside, and changing to a Wolf extra power spring, we took it back out and tried it again. Fox 2 with the extra power spring.
Same issue. Looks like there's just enough power robbed from this trying to strip the mag to stop it.
So no luck there. You could tell it had more force coming forward with that Wolf spring, but still not enough to cycle. And we tried different magazines. Some mags, like for example polymer mags, might put a little more drag on the bottom of your bolt, whereas like a well-worn military surplus mag will offer less resistance. But it wasn't hanging up forward, it was in the back. It did look like the trigger group was sitting a wee bit high. Something might have been, like looking at it compared to Jay's Fox there, you know, or one of mine, internally, it looked like the hammer was going a little more forward than it should have. even at rest. As I said earlier, I didn't think it was the trigger group, but when you're kind of doing a trial and error thing, never assume. So the next thing we did, we took that trigger group out and we put in a different one that Jay had already had in one of his guns, so we knew it worked fine. And then we took it back to see if maybe the trigger group, the FCG, really was the culprit. Also worth pointing out that we swapped retainers. We went from the paperclip style to the Tapco, I believe, or one of the bows, you know, one of the plates. Makes it a lot easier when we're taking stuff in and out quite a bit too. Fox, test 3. Nope. So again, we're getting more or less the same results. We've changed the recoil spring. We've changed the fire control group. We've changed the retaining plate. We've tried half a dozen different mags and at least 3 different types of ammo. What the hell's going on here? We have quite a bit of trigger time with the Fox. More than one example. And we've never experienced anything remotely like this. Well, luckily, again, we have Foxes, so we start swapping parts around, because that's what you do. If you can't figure out what's going on, you'll take a part off this one, swap them around, and just kind of keep doing that. Interestingly, I tried taking the bolt carrier out of a Romanian gun, or Wasser, and when I put it in, it fit, but when I tried to pull it back, it really got stuck in the back. So as much as the Polish bolt carrier was dragging in the back, it actually seemed to be fitting better than a different one. That told me that the issue is not probably with the carrier itself. I did look at the piston to see if maybe it was dragging in the tube, but I didn't really see evidence of that. This still has the original pinned in, not Century Arms welded in piston, so that has been an issue in the past though. For example, Chris Bartacci had a certain Century gun where the piston had been either welded in crooked or maybe part of the gun was a little crooked. On our normal AK, the play in the parts will, you know, basically compensate, but when you weld the piston in, you're eliminating one of the intentional points of slop that Mikhail Kalashnikov put in these. Anyway, I digress, but that can be an issue too. But it wasn't on this one. So next, we take the whole recoil system, the rod and spring, and the safety from Jay's rifle. And we put it in, and we take it back out, and this time, yeah, I'll let him do the honors. I'm tired, so letting Jay try the Fox.
So we had one hitch. The bolt's still a little sluggish. Or the so.
Okay.
Yep.
Alright, a little bit of progress. Not great, not where it needs to be, but at least we're able to fire more than a few shots at a time, and it seems to be getting less sluggish. So did replacing those parts help, or is the gun just wearing itself in? This has a painted finish. Sometimes when you get painted guns, the paint is too heavy in some areas, and you just have to wear it down. Is that what was going on here? Or did somehow swapping the safety in the recoil guide improve reliability? That's interesting. I wonder how that happens. It's a different thing. We've been at this at the time of that day for a good long while. I mean, on camera it didn't seem probably that long, but you know, we were taking our time and trying to be pretty methodical. And this is a bit of a different thing for us to have an AK that's being this ornery. And of course, when that ever happens, you just can't let it go until you figure it out. So what is going on? We've pretty much looked at all the parts. There's just not much going on inside a gun like this. This is our recoil spring. That's one component. As you see, it's self-contained. This is our bolt carrier. On a Fox, it's kind of in the white. You can hear the wiggling. That's that play in the piston that you actually do want. Not really much to go wrong there. I mean, this is all solid, guys. And again, the other carrier out of a Romanian gun was behaving even worse, so it didn't sound like it was the carrier. Our bolt, there's no reason to suspect it was a problem. When things were going forward, when it was locking in, it was firing. The firing pin's working, the extractor's working. Could be some rough edges on the lugs, perhaps. It's not even really a feeding issue, which should be on the bottom lug. Here's our dust cover, of course. This covers it. You don't even need one to operate an AK. It's just there for cosmetics. And here you've got your trunnion. The only moving parts are the trigger group, which is essentially three pieces and 2 springs. And your safety, which we've already messed with. And now we also have the retainer in here. So yeah, there's just not much inside an AK. What is going on? Why is this thing not working? You know, some things are easy, even easier to do one-handed. This is not disassembling a gun and trying to hold a camera. Sorry. What can be going wrong? Well, the only other thing we hadn't really changed out was the dust cover. So I decided to run it just as you see it here, with no dust cover on. It doesn't require it. It's just there for cosmetics and to keep some stuff out. It's not even really a dust cover. It's actually a top cover. Your safety, when it's all the way up, is actually your dust cover, technically speaking. But as long as you don't put your fingers or something back there, or aren't in the trenches, you can run it like this. And so instead of swapping dust covers, I figured just eliminate the dust cover altogether. And the day is getting long. We've been at this probably, at the time of the video, an hour, more or less. If this doesn't work, then this will probably have to go back to Arms of America, the importer, and get replaced. The problem is, who knows when the next batch of Fox guns will be in. So, out of desperation, let's try one more thing. Fox Test 4, bikini style.
That's a bolt open mag, so.
Gotcha. I was like, what? You know, it's always the last thing you try. Just like something's always in the last place you look. So, by all indications, the issue, at least primarily, was the dust cover. Also, if you look remember back there when Jay and I swapped out the recoil springs, we got a little bit better reliability. So I called Arms of America back the next day, and Andrew sent me out a brand new unissued recoil guide and a brand new unserialized top cover. You notice it's a WBP, it's an original. It's the heavy style that they use. I wish I could do better, but I guess at this point I'll just say kind of listen. I'll do what I can here, guys, but I'm going to have to set the camera down. But listen to how this sounds with the original parts in it being racked. Maybe you can see something on camera. Again, I'm doing my absolute best, guys. See, it sticks. Even if you get it past this point, it wants to kind of stay there. That's, see, over there. Sluggish. Even after all that shooting and greasing, I can hold down the trigger. Really not much better. That's why I really didn't think it was the trigger. So that's the original. So let's take this off. What if I can do this one-handed? Almost, actually. There we go. And once you take it off and know where to look, check out the inside of this cover. Hopefully you can see it. How worn it's getting. It's not really noticeable until you really feel for it, and of course the gun, but this is ever so slightly pinched. It's ever so slightly bowed inwards. Now, a lot of AK parts are fitted kind of crudely like that. In fact, they're all kind of bent a bit so they don't rattle around too much on the receiver. Hand fitting, filing, hammering is all very common for an AK. But this one was just over bent. And that meant when the bolt was coming back in here, it was getting pinched between the walls of our dust cover. It wasn't bent enough where you could really see it on the outside, especially under the paint. But it was enough with tolerance stacking and everything else to matter. And this could have happened in shipping. It could have been, you know, banged around. If anyone's ever been to a port, you know how those containers are treated. Or it could have even happened over in the factory. This is stamped steel, even though this is actually thicker than usual. It can happen. But either way, that was tweaked just a bit. I'm going to drop this in the floor so I don't mix it up with the new parts. As for the recoil spring, what I think was happening when this bolt was coming back and getting mushed, I think it was getting forced over kind of asymmetrically a bit. And once that happened with the pressure being fired, I think it bent, or at least partially collapsed, the original recoil spring here. Because all this is wire. So it can easily be bent out of shape if something else is much out of shape. So I decided, you know, better safe than sorry. And let's get a whole new recoil spring and guide, just because we're just about done monkeying with this here gun. Enough's enough, right? I'm going to set the camera down, I think, guys. I know you don't like that, but gotta do what I gotta do. In fact, I think what I'll do is I'll just put this on and I'll be right back with you. How's that sound? Alright, yeah, just had to pop it on. Once you get this on, you can actually get your fingernail under each side, as you normally would, but with that original cover, it was very clearly skewed over the way it was sitting to one side. You know, by comparison, once you have two parts, you can really tell them. So now we've got the new spring and the new cover on. Let's see how this behaves. Not sure if you guys can see anything, probably not, but you can hear it. I've got it pulled all the way back, forward. Now holding the trigger down. Now let's kind of ease it forward. And there, folks, you have it. No matter how much I try to ease it forward, it's just not sticking. I put a mag in it just to say I did. Same result. So there we have it, folks. Even when I'm trying, I can't get it to stay. And a lot of AKs, a lot of your Wassers, even some of your Arsenals, will kind of get sluggish right over the trigger group. And this one's real slick over it, as a Fox should be. Because this is a polished group, it provides very minimal friction. And the painted finish, it has less friction than parkerization, especially dry park. There you have it. Dust cover. A slightly out of spec dust cover. Caused all that trouble. And that just goes to show you that even with an AK, things can go wrong. Now, that's not to say the Fox is bad, or the AK should now be considered unreliable. All the other Foxes have been good, and even this one was actually a very easy fix once we figured out what the problem was. And the importer was very amenable to sending over the parts we needed to get it running. It's just figuring it out. Anything mechanical, anything made by man, can and will fail. And these are brand new guns. And that's one of the downsides of new guns, especially the whole Kalashnikov, the way con block is manufactured. A lot of con block mechanical objects, be they guns, tractors, airplanes, whatever, are kind of designed to let the parts wear in together. The parts are made with generous spaces between them, and during manufacturing, they're allowed to be pretty generous. For example, with the gas block here, at the barrel here, barrels can be of a pretty wide-ranging diameter, from undersized to a little oversized. Now, to mate up with that, you'll need a gas block that's about the same. That's why you'll see, especially on Romanian guns, parts get numbered. For example, 3 might mean oversized, 0 might mean undersized, with 1 or 2 being right in the middle and perfect. So if you have an oversized gas block and you try to put it on a 0 or 1 barrel, it's going to fit loose. That doesn't mean the gas block's junk. That just means you wait for the next oversized barrel to come down the production line and you put them together. And that's why what they do when they're building these over in the factory, they'll dive into a parts bin, try a gas block. If the number's not right, they'll look for the right number. Kind of like how head spacing works on an FAL if you think about it. The way the locking shoulders are done. But even good AKs, even good ones, I've had more than a few Wassers have issues. There are some Arsenals with issues. There are Segas. As I said at the beginning and you saw, there are Chinese. And this is the first Fox we've had with an issue. Luckily, it was quite easily correctable. But there will be issues with these guns. There are issues with literally every single gun that's put into mass production on this planet. Heck, there are even issues with Swiss SG550 guns. With that in mind, take it as it comes. I mean, if you cannot accept that your rifle can break or may not work out of the box, you need to be in a different hobby. I recommend computers because at least a digital gun on the screen you can control, because in the real world weird anomalies pop up and weird things happen. Now for folks like Jay and I, honestly one of the reasons I was so willing to help my customer out, aside from honestly it's just the right thing to do for someone who helps provide for my livelihood, is this seemed like a fun and interesting project. And honestly, although it got a little frustrating towards the middle, it was. And now we're making this video out of it. So hopefully it will be entertaining and a little educational. So it seemed like something worth doing. Well, folks, that's about it. Translation, hey, it's dinner time, and I think dinner's done, so I'm going to go eat. I was doing this to kind of ignore the fact that I was hungry. No, but I am appreciative to my customer for sending this, for giving both myself and Arms of America a chance, as well as WBP, to make this right. I think we got him up and running. Sorry, I don't have any shooting footage of us testing it because of reasons, but, you know, it's running now. Before I ship this back, he wants me to change the furniture on him, so I'm going to put on, he actually had pulled off this stock and put a different one on, and he put it back on when he sent it back. Now he wants me to put on a collapsing stock, so I'm going to do that tomorrow, and then box it back up, and then send it back with the warranty repair tag, and hopefully this will be a really solid rifle for him. I mean, we have a FB Radom Hammer Forge chrome line barrel. We've got a Russian spec stamped AKM receiver. So hopefully this will last as long as a Wasser or Arsenal or whatever. These are nice rifles. And both Jay and I's, our guns have been a lot of fun. Any questions or comments, or if you've experienced any issues with WBP guns, or heck, Wassers, Arsenals, whatever, heck, if you just want to waste time and chat, feel free to comment below. If you could, like, share, and subscribe, and also check out our playlist, where we have quite a few other Polish, including this gun here, featured predominantly. As you see, I've got her set up kind of like a barrel. We really appreciate you guys. This is Misha, and Jay's nearby. We will both catch you very soon next time.